Welcome, Adventure. I'm GM Goblin, your GM Goblin. And today, I'm going to go through a build that I recently did as my party started an off-week campaign for the Emerald Spire. Emerald Spire is basically a large, just dungeon. One level after another. You don't have to have a whole lot of RP to it, but we needed a game that we could play when our other two games weren't available, depending on what player was out. So we created one where we could just swap players in and out, and Emerald Spire works. Actually, we're swapping DMs every other level with me and another player. Maybe I'll make a video on how that's going so far. But I wanted to share my character and my build for an Aether Kineticist that was supposed to be the party's rogue. Anyway, if you have any comments, or if you would like to tell me what the next video I should make, maybe the next build I should do, because I've had a couple requests for builds, so I think I'm going to start doing more builds, then leave them in the comments below. Remember to like, subscribe, and let's get going. So, this is Kersank. Kersank is a little bit different, as no one in my party has played a goblin yet. But he has been leveled up to 17, which is kind of the extent most of your APs are ever going to go, generally. There's a few that go to 20, but I leveled him up to 17 to go through what most likely will be his abilities as we level out. Now, he is a kineticist, so if you're not familiar with a kineticist, he is just going to be the standard kineticist released in Occult Adventures. Love the occult classes. They really should have done more work with the kineticist. I think it's a little bit lacking, but it's super fun. I have multiple videos on a kineticist and how they work. So if you go back, you can take a look at some of those videos. And I go in pretty good explanation with them, as well as I have multiple builds for different kinds of kineticists as well, and a 3P review for one of the books I'm using in my Mummy's Mask campaign. But for this character, I wanted him to be the party's rogue. So what I did is I decided to go with one of the races that have the most decks that doesn't get me too far above that 10 RP, because everyone else was playing pretty much your standard stuff. Everyone in my party likes to play regular things, elves, half elves, lots of humans. But I went with Goblin. Went with Goblin because I wanted to be the stealthy character, and I knew they got 4 decks. Originally, I was going to make this build a melee build, and I have 2 pet classes and a melee combatant, at least, in this party. So I decided against it. But 4 decks, small size, so not only do I get an increase in my size, so bonuses for attack and AC, but I also get a +4 size bonus on my stealth, which is great. Goblins also get an additional +4 size bonus for ride and stealth checks. And then, of course, they have a standard 30 movement speed, just like a medium creature. And, of course, dark vision, because everybody loves dark vision. Anyway, so I went that way with this. And we're going to run through some of my suggestions as you level up for this build. Now, if you've played with a kineticist at all, you're going to know that an Aether kineticist is not going to do the most damage. Aether is the utility element. It is going to be the one that gets all the cool stuff. It's the telekinesis. You're going to be able to turn yourself invisible, basically. And so if you want to play a stealth kineticist, something that's cool, something that you will not see in 1E very often, then this is it. And you can do some other builds where you use an archetype or two, and you can put him into melee if you want that. But with our party comp, I just went ahead and went with doing everything at range. So starting off, you've got your standard abilities. We're getting Gather Power, Burn, Elemental Overflow will come into effect at 3rd level, but regardless. You start off, we pick Aether. Aether, you get basic telekinesis, and you get telekinetic blast. Aether, basically you throw rock, object, piece of trash around you. You don't actually have to carry around anything with it, but it can do 3 different types of damage: bludgeon, slashing, or piercing. So if your DM's particular, then you can carry stuff specifically for that. Arrow tips, ball bearings. And especially at low levels, when you're fighting things like zombies or something, you can get around at least a couple different kind of common damage reductions with this kinetic blast. It is physical, so you do have to do regular AC. Not a big deal. You're starting off with a higher dex than everyone else. This character's dex is 20, starting at level 1, because there's no gear on this character. You're also going to get um, something at level 2 called Force Ward. You're going to get temporary HP, like a shield. And after a minute, it's going to regenerate as well. So if you have a minute or so between each fight, you're going to start off every single fight with your level in temporary hit points, which is fantastic for a kineticist, especially since you're going to burn yourself. Anyway, starting with the build, first thing that I always take on pretty much any kineticist is going to be extended range, just because you start off generally 30-foot range. Air has got something where it can double your range. You cannot take that to level 2 anyway, but extended range, you're almost always going to want to take it. Even though we're mostly going to be in confined places, we're going to need it. Then we go to level 2 for our defense and our wards, starting wild talents at number 2. And being that we're going to be a rogue, we're going to be taking telekinetic finesse. You perform fine manipulation within close range, so 25 feet plus 5 feet per level, including sleight of hand and disable device check. So you're not limited to this. And this is the basis around what you'll be able to do later on, where you can do things like grapple, bull rush, and things from a distance. But this character at level 1 had a stealth check of 17, 18, and had a disable device check of like 14 at level 1. So, and I could have optimized it even better with some additional traits, but this is going to allow your character, without any other buffs, without any other equipment or anything focusing on it, to be able to mess with things from a distance. Being able to disable device or open doors or do anything like that from a distance is fantastic. Fine manipulation, opening doors, using devices, turning things on clocks. Anything that you're worried about blowing up from, stand back 30 feet. Don't get blown up. I mean, it's a great way to get past all those traps. I know for a fact that this coming weekend, I will be playing this character at level 2 in the Emerald Spire, and it's supposedly full of traps. I am probably going to drive the GM crazy with this because I'm going to be able to stand back and open all the doors, all the chests, and deal with all the devices from 30 feet away fairly safely, or set everything off as we go. But telekinetic finesse, if you're being a rogue character, this is what you get at level 2. Pushing infusion, I just got it because if we're using standard rules, there's not a whole lot by the time you hit level 3 when it comes to an infusion. You just don't have a lot. I mean, you can practice some bull rush with this. That's what it's really designed for. You're performing a bull rush maneuver. You're going to be using your constitution, which this character, I did not jump that much. Now, my ASIs and my gear is going to be used to push this up from now on. But I didn't jump it at the start because I wanted the dex as high as possible. Not just because I wanted to be able to hit something at a low level, which I have the highest attack of anyone in the party, including the full base attack bonus character right now. But I wanted to be able to pass all my skill checks, all my acrobatics and everything, and not have to worry about it. So I pushed my dex up to start off with. And for any damage and everything that's going to happen, and some of the shenanigans we do later, I have time to make up for it with equipment. Level 4, you're taking telekinetic call. One of the coolest things about the Aether element is this right here. This allows you to move 100 pounds per level as long as it is unoccupied. So the same thing goes for like your telekinesis, which is basically mage hand, is you can use open close, that's signed, so you can open and close doors, portals, and stuff, and you can move things 60 feet around you. But you're limited to things that are not occupied. They didn't want you to be able to pick up characters yet, and they didn't want you to be able to put someone on a rug or a platform and then get rid of them, because 100 pounds per level, I can take 1 point of burn for this, and I make it 1,000. A wagon, like a huge wagon that you have a canvas on that you move an entire house full of equipment with, in reality weighed around 1,500 pounds to like around 3,000 pounds, maybe a little bit more. And that moved over 6,000 pounds worth of equipment. So this right here means that from low levels, I can pick up something and I can drop it on somebody. Let me see. Can I move there we go. Let's do this. Okay. I can pick up something and drop it for 66 points of damage from the start. So, or at least from early on, by the time I get that ability. So 4,000 pounds, 400 pounds continuously, I can just move it around. It's a great way to get through a lot of different things when you're running around dungeons, being able to have telekinesis. Any wizard that's played with telekinesis is going to love this kind of stuff. But that's level 4. Level 5, you get Infusion Specialist, which cuts back on our burn. Metakinesis, which starts letting us have some fun. And then I didn't have a whole lot, once again, for an infusion, because you are very limited when it comes to Aether. But I did take Telekinetic Blade, or Kinetic Blade. The reason I took this, and sometimes you do want to take this, even if you're trying to be ranged, is so that you have something that you're able to defend yourself with when you get encroached on. I can get my AC up. My AC is probably, if not the highest, pretty close for the party right now. I think I'm level 2, and I think it's 20. Could be 21. But this right here, even though you're taking it at level 5, means that when you get someone in melee range with you, normally, Kineticist, you provoke attack of opportunity twice. So not only during your ranged attack, whenever you're in melee and stuff, but you're also going to be doing a spell with this. So you're gathering and using a magical effect, and you're provoking attack of opportunity twice. It's bad. You can do some concentration and stuff, but with this, is you can use it, and therefore you can use your decks. We are using Elephant in the Room, and I'll mention that especially when we get to feats again. But we're using Elephant in the Room, which basically gives everyone finesse. And so, regardless, this right here is going to allow me to produce a weapon at level 5 if you're in melee and hit you with it. In all honesty, there is tons of builds, and I almost went with a blade build anyway for this. But once again, I'm probably going to be hard pressed to get into melee with all the melee combatants that we've got now anyway. So I just went with ranged. 6, internal buffer. Okay, that's normal. It's annoying. A legendary kineticist is so much better because it allows you to get this free, filled up every single day. If you are wanting to try out a kineticist, it's fun to try out one of these, especially if you're going to do a higher level campaign. Some of the pain's not so bad, but they're probably not going to let you pick. I can't remember the race. Githlane. Githlane allows you to have extra burn basically for free. It's broken, but in all honesty, I think kineticist in general, though fun, is a little underpowered. If you take a look at Going Nova, it has some 3P recommendations into it. He does really good about being fair. And so basically what he went through with this, I've got my GM during Mummy's Mask to okay. And so you might try that with your GM just to allow you to have some 3P content. I have none in this example for a character. So we're moving on. Level 6, instead of getting flight like my current character has got, we're getting telekinetic invisibility. That's right. 0 burn. It cost me absolutely nothing. I spent an action, I turned invisible. It works just like the spell, which means I'm going to get an extra 20 to my stealth check. By this level, I can probably roll a 1 and bypass everything, or beat everything's ability to see me. The dampened sound, allows you to avoid automatic detection via sound-based blind sense, blind sight. You do not receive a stealth bonus checks from this wild talents against creatures with such abilities. But so it dampens sound too. I mean, it's a fantastic ability. And then later on, we're going to get flight, so it's going to get even better. But it's a great way. It's one of the reasons this and telekinetic calls and finesse, they are 246. They are the reason that people take this and they turn this into a roguelike character. It's fantastic. So that's level 6. Level 7, expanded element. You're limited. This is also normally when your damage, though you're going to be taking more burn, kind of jumps up as a kineticist. It is not going to be doing that in this case. So we could have gone a couple different options. We could have done water and increased our AC. I do that later in this build. But I went because this gives you some more options since you're not going to be a major damage dealer, and probably the route I will be going in my campaign again is going to allow us to provide some more utility for our party if we want, and it will provide us continuous flight. It's better than all the others for pretty much about the same level. So level 7, we went with air. Air, we're going to take the electric blast. I'll show you why soon. Normally, you would get a combination of your elements, whatever it was, thunderous blast, charged water, all that kind of stuff. And it increases your damage for the cost of 2 burn. Normally, this is just your, I'm going to hit you hard. This is my level 6 thing to try and keep up with the marshals. You're not, because thanks to being Aether, you're only getting 1 additional point of damage. And so you're not going to be doing that much. It's just sad to say, but they kind of hamper you. So it's probably not going to be worth it a whole lot unless you just don't have anything else to use that burn for during that round and you're just dealing damage. But you do get to have a infusion or a utility or an ability from this. I chose Air Elite because here in a little bit we're going to take Wings of Air. And so if you don't know your secondary ability, another reason that I say change the rules a little bit with your GM, because they hamper you so much. They don't do it in number 2, which tells me that there was a little bit of more of a rework than just balancing. But when you take your second element, any kind of infusions or anything you take is going to be 4 levels lower than what your max level is for your main element. And so that means at level 7, I can only take something that's level 3. And so it's kind of bad. It really hampers you. You can take a feat, which you'll have down here. Extra wild talent, it bypasses this because it allows you to take a wild talent from elements for at least 2 levels lower. So that means that some of the options for this, you can get flight a little bit faster, technically. So Air's Leap just allows you to have more acrobatics, jump ability. It's going to naturally double it, and then you can double it again if you want to. And so it's just a nice way to get around being the acrobatics kind of character. Level 8, we're looking at telekinetic maneuvers. This is kind of where we're going with this build, where it's going to allow us to basically use telekinesis. Telekinesis is going to have a decent range to it. So is that, I mean, that's going to be restricted some, but it's going to allow us to do combat maneuvers. Mostly we're going to looking at tripping and then grappling, including pinning. And then, of course, it's going to be using our constitution instead of our intelligence. And then it's going to consider us to have a full base attack bonus according to our level. Anything that does not go along with your strength is going to be considered to assist it, which means if you want to follow this route, which I'm going to, then you're going to be able to get some equipment, magical items, and feats that assist you in trip, as long as it's not weapon specific. So if it's a magic item like a pair of gauntlets that are going to increase your combat maneuvers, then congratulations, that's what you need. Oh, change screen. That's what you need, and it's going to increase by +2. Now, the bad thing is, a lot of times we're going to be fighting creatures that have really good resistance to combat maneuvers. Large creatures, huge creatures. So it's not great. You're looking at the time where you're starting to get in that. You're starting to fight dragons and everything. But especially when you fight, if you have a campaign where you're fighting a lot of humanoids, if you're doing Red-Handed Doom, if you're doing something where a lot of humanoids, a lot of things are small, that might have a low CMD, then it's going to be pretty good. You are probably not going to be as good as the strict martial that is focused on this forever, but that's okay. This is secondary for us. And this, more importantly, is going to give us an option for locking down casters when we find them. And so we go from being mediocre damage to being able to lock up a caster. And when you grapple something, you pull it to the square adjacent to you, which means you go stand right next to your fighter. You grapple that wizard some 30 feet or whatever away. When you succeed, you're going to yank him to you. He's grappled, and your fighter can just go ham on him. And so that's the general idea behind this and where I'm going to go with this build. Bow throw, infusion, level 9 infusion, pretty cool. You can throw a large or smaller creature instead of an unattended object. Wait for it. You can increase the burn cost by 1 to affect a creature of larger size That's cool. If the creature you attempt to throw succeeds a fortitude save, not so cool. It negates the blast entirely. Otherwise, if your blast hits, both the thrown creature and the target take the full amount of damage from your telekinetic blast, and the thrown creature falls prone to the last occupied space along the path. If your blast misses, the thrown creature can choose to occupy any space within 30 feet of the target. Doesn't fall prone, takes half damage. Movement doesn't provoke attacks of opportunity. It's not the greatest once again, but low fortitude save, it's a great way of get out of here, toss off bridge, all that kind of stuff. Can use this with friendly targets if they choose to fail their save. You could also throw cows at people. I'm just saying. But it's an interesting little thing. There's lots of fun things you can do with it. 10, since you get another utility. I'm taking Wings of Air. We've already got Air's Leap. We took it 7, and so Wings of Air, now I'm flying 60 feet, good maneuverability, forever, plus 30 feet of movement. It's fantastic. You never touch ground again. Those are the rules. I don't make them. That's just how it is. Supercharge at 11, which is a big up, so you can take more burn. Magnetic Infusion. Another reason for us to take air is this and some other things that allow us to help out the party. There also is an ability that I put on this list called Celerity. Celerity is also a 3, 6, 10. You can take it at 10 or 9 if you want to use a feat. You could use a feat, your party will love you. But Celerity allows you to take a burn, so you hurt yourself, and you're going to get to give haste to your party. If you don't have anyone that does haste, which I don't think we do, and they don't want to spend their money on Boots of Speed, which they should anyway, because at a high enough level, you should always have haste, then it's a way to go. I already have it in my level 6 Kineticist. Everybody loves it, but I'm using Legendary Kineticist, which means I have a little more padding for using this type of ability. Spark of Life. Spark of Life lets us create an element. It's iffy if this is ever really good. At this level, not too great because it creates medium. Once you are level 12 and you create, well, this is 12. But once you're level 12 and you create large, it gets better. And then you do huge at 14, which is fantastic. The coolest thing about this is I'm using Aether elementals. Aether elementals have interesting little abilities. Not only do they have telekinetic invisibility, which is constant, but they have something called telekinetic throw. Aether elemental can fling a creature or object, maximum range 480 feet. A creature receives a fortitude save to avoid being thrown. Okay. And its constitution bonus. Telekinetic throw deals the listed damage to both the thrown creature or object and the target. He can throw a creature or object that weighs at most 50 pounds per hit dice. Large creature is going to have 8 hit dice, 400 pounds. Okay. So most of your big creatures that are not going to be able to be thrown that well is going to be hard anyway. And he only gets a plus 12 to him CMD or CMB. But there are ways and spells that you can affect this that will assist your party. And either way, when you have goblins, you have lots of little creatures around that are coming around, and they're weak, and they're designed just to be fodder. Take one burn, summon this guy, and he gets to chunking. It's just tossing. Wizards, anything, especially anything if it doesn't have flight, just have him throw it 300, 400 feet up in the air. That's it. Okay, so you missed your target. He didn't take damage. But he's going to take 200 feet of fall damage when he lands. And that's if he doesn't land on something worse. So it's funny. My wife had this familiar in our last campaign. It was a smaller version. I had to retcon it because even though she had Aether, they were fighting on a ship with a bunch of pirates, and she thought it was hilarious. Meanwhile, she's throwing everyone off the side. So I'm like, maybe that's a little much. They do get telekinetic throw, like I said. They can do telekinetic maneuvers just like you. So they are going to be able to pin people down. They're going to be able to attack people. You know, they've got a DC 16. Yeah, that's not that much, but regardless, it's possible that it's going to fail. And then weak characters or low NPCs with, with no fort. It's funny. So, but that's what I picked. Plus Spark of Life, having an element to be able to trip traps, to be able to fight for you and just take damage. You have more opponents coming up. Spark of Life has let me in the one campaign that I've actually got to use it. There's an enemy we didn't want to deal with, Spark of Life, and they're having to deal with him now. I use a move action, I still attack, and it's great. Aether Puppet is another good option. At this point, it's going to allow you to do something fairly similar, but instead of summoning something, you're turning objects. It's animate object is what it is. And so you're turning an object into it. Have a table follow you around and be your cover. You know, that kind of stuff. It's pretty cool. It's really thematic. It's great. Synaptic Infusion is one of these that you use electric for. Once again, we have to take it at a high level because 4 levels lower unless you want to use a feat. And it allows a will save, but it's going to cause your enemy to be staggered. So not only are you dealing damage, but you're staggering your enemy. It's a nice way to do a lockdown. It can really benefit your party. Level 15, now you're going to have some fun. You get expanded element. I went with water. I went with water because water's fun. Water blast. You get charged water. Charged water because you're using it with your electricity is going to be able to do your either your synaptic infusion, you're going to be able to do your, where is it, magnetic infusion, things like that. So you're still going to be able to affect and help the party. Magnetic infusion is still going to be able to give your metal wielding weapon melee and ranged targets an extra 4 to their attack. I used it every round. It's fantastic. Cuts the fights down. But I'm also going to use a feat at 15 and take expanded defense. I'm taking expanded defense because it's going to allow you to have Water Shroud. Water Shroud means that if you don't have armor, fine. Now you have armor. And you get armor depending on your levels. So once every 4 Kineticist levels beyond second. So 6, 10, what, we're 15. So now we're doing 14. So you either have a +2 or a 2 AC shield that's technically +3, or 4 AC armor that's technically +3. And you can take a burn for this shield, which is what I used on my character when I used this because I played a character about this level. And take a burn, and you can increase your AC. So if you want to start the day with your overflow being up and you want to get something out of it, use the Shroud of Water and you're going to increase your AC. Not only that, but it's going to increase and pad you out a little bit depending on how much you've spent on your armor every time you take burn. And so you get the armor and the shield every time you take burn, regardless. And so if it elapses or increases over what you have for armor, then you just increase your armor for that turn. It's great. Level 16, you get your composition or composite specialization again. It's going to make that instead of 2 burn that you got last level, it's going to make it 1. So you have 1 level where you get to have tons of damage, and then the next level you get tons of damage for less because you're finally being able to use charged water, which is 2d6 per level or per, every odd level, which is tons of damage. So, and then by here you've kicked in most of your metakinesis abilities. So it's great. I love Kineticist. I prefer using the 3P rules simply because they add more options. Izo and 1E did not give enough love to this class, but there is a lot of 3P options, which makes you broken. Anything that takes away your burn, you should really think about whether or not you need it, because burn is what holds back this class. If there was no burn, then, and I could just buff everything up, then it'd be super OP. Everyone would play it. It'd be a great blaster class. No one would pick anything else. But that's not how it goes. So you have to have something. Air's Reach is another option. These are some of the options that I've got for you. They're low levels. If they allow magical items, there's a magical crystal that I'm using in the other one that's 3P, but it allows you to basically pay for a magic item and you get an extra utility or infusion. That's it. It's you attune to it. You can have 1 for every time that you've had to go through your expanded element. So you have 1 for the first 5 levels or first 6 levels. Level 7, you get your expanded element. Now you can have 2, and then level 15, you can have 3. But it's fun. It adds more utility. It's good. But Air's Reach doubles your range, and you don't have to spend any burn on it. Elemental Whisper, if you want a familiar, Greater Elemental Whisper, we're using it in the party, and she is our knowledge bank. She is a sage, and she gives me bonuses to my attack, and she's fantastic. It's a great little scouting thing. And with Aether, if you have that element, that means she's basically going to be invisible. So, Touch Sight, interesting little abilities, allows you to kind of scout out areas. It's interesting. So, like I said, touch sight is going to be one of those that makes it easier for you to connect onto things and see around corners where monsters goes, anything retreating, get from ambush if they're trying to draw you in some place. Very similar with those reactive, same way. Another thing that stems off of that. Ride the Blast. Ride the Blast is funny. It's really cool. It's going to allow you to basically have teleport. I don't know if I'll use it with this character really, but you're going to have to be pretty high. It's a universal, so you can take it with any element, but it allows you to basically throw a blast, which doesn't have a size restrictions as long as you can see through it and your DM lets you do it. And you teleport to wherever you hit. So if you have the ability to extend your range 120 feet, 200 plus feet, then you can short range teleport for free every single round. But it's fun. Telekinetic cover, if you have access to 3P, it gets better. But it's not great. I mean, you can do some fun things with it, but it's iffy. Celerity is haste, like I said, it's great. If you want something later on and you need it, taking these together especially is best. Air Shroud, it's a low level thing for air. Gives you air bubble, meh. Depending on the campaign, it might be really good. Life bubble, on the other hand, is fantastic. So my other game, I'll probably be taking that. Chain infusion uses your electricity. You can only use electricity on this, so you can't use charged water, and it allows you to hit multiple targets. It's chain lightning, guys. That's all there really is to it. Wind manipulation is utility for a level 12, technically level 16 in this build, or 14 if you can. Well, you can't catch feet, so 15. Then you're going to be able to use control winds. You can knock down buildings and stuff. Not going to be a big thing for combat, in all honesty. Telekinetic globe. You get to do telekinetic sphere. You're going to be able to trap individuals by using your move action, or you can take a burn. Everything's got a cost. That's going to almost everything. Let it last a minute a level. So you're going to be able to, one, you could use it to check individuals, but you're going to use it to be able to trap individuals. Force barrier, that's going to be something you get naturally with Aether. Force ward is something that you're going to, or no, force ward is something you naturally get, sorry. And then barrier is this little guy here. And you have to take it at level 10 or later, and creates an immobile hemisphere or sphere around your square of squares. Force barrier functions like wall of force in all other ways. It lasts until the beginning of your next turn, though. So it is one of those things that you can either take burn and you can use it to extend the duration, or you use this for either holding a spot, or maybe you are just trying to be defensive until someone can save you. That's kind of what this is. Ride the Blast takes you a couple more levels, but you can use that to get out of dodge if you need to, but it's going to provoke. So Force Barrier is one of those things. If you need to block a hallway, you can put up a wall of force and you can stand there, but you're going to have to stand there. Yeah, going on to feats. It's longer than I intended, but precise shot, you got to take it. I'm using Elephant in the Room, which does not have point blank shot in it necessarily. And so with me, precise shot is the first thing that we use, because we use Elephant in the Room every single game practically. So we use that. Otherwise, you're going to have to take point blank shot, and then you're going to have to wait till level 3 to get precise shot, which takes -4 off your attack penalty. Not just for attacking through individuals, but when you're attacking into melee. So see if you can get Elephant in the Room. If not, you're going to have to take this in succession. So point blank and then precise shot. It's a reason why so many people that don't play with alternate rules like Elephant in the Room, they play humans. That way they can get by some of these basically taxes that you have to do that you would normally bypass, just to be able to get to things that you have to have, or you're almost useless. Proved initiative is good. Mobile gathering is great because you have to be level 7, but it allows you to move half your base speed when you're flying whenever you take a full round action. So you're gathering power for your movement action, and so you can move during that time. So you get a little bit of movement with your character while you're gathering power and still get to do full damage. It's fantastic. Oops. Wild talent. We went over this one a little bit. Lets you get, you can't get a blast or defensive talent on this really, but what it's going to do is going to allow you to get an infusion or a utility. And so there it is. You have to be level 6, and you're going to have to either pick your main element than you currently use. And so you get, well, it's 2 levels lower than you currently use. Another thing is with legendary Kineticist and in the alternate rules, like my other campaign, I can take this and I can get something of my level. Level 6, take this, or level 7, take this. I can get a 6 or a 7 utility or infusion. It's easier and it's more on par, in all honesty, than what you're dealing with normally. Because I mean, rogues can get extra talents and stuff. They just have to spend a feat. Why not you? It's basically the same thing. Spell penetration. If you're using electricity a lot for dealing damage, I've started to have to deal with this at 6 for some reason in Mummy's Mask. But spell penetration is something you're going to need. They have cloaks. They have other magical items that will assist you with this. But spell penetration in the feet is going to be your main focus. If you're not doing the electricity thing, don't worry about it. Just get things like weapon focus to deal with your attack. Deadly aim, not that big of a deal, in honesty. You're not having multiple attacks. You're going to have increased damage, and you're going to have increased attack. Stupid thing. Thanks to Elemental Overflow, the way it works, it's not necessary. I mean, I use it in my other campaign for a couple extra points of damage, but in all honesty, it's not going to do a whole lot when everything of yours is all smack dab into one hit. Expanded Metakinesis got some interesting little things into it if you want to open up your ability. Piercing Spell, 1 boing, 1 burn, don't bypass. Spell resistance, merciful spell, you don't deal real damage. Ectoplasmic, now you're dealing full damage to incorporeal. If you're playing a game with a lot of ghosts in it, grab that for your Kineticist. And then Disrupt. It's just that improved critical. You can grab this whenever you can. It's only going to give you an extra, 5% possibility for a crit, but having a 10% over 5% increase or possibility of crit is pretty good. And when your damage increases by that much, you don't deal 120 damage now, you're dealing 250. So I've hit crits, especially in my first campaign when I played a Kineticist, massive damage. Trap finding, you can take any of your traits when it comes to taking traits that give you assistance or give you disable device and an improvement to it. That's what I recommend for this build because that's what we're doing. We're building that road-like character. We allow, in my campaigns, specific traits from those modules, as long as they're not over ridiculous. There's a couple of them that are too much. It really is like build around story kind of like it, or it's way too specific, but they're few and far between. Trap Finder is something that we don't care about. It allows you to disable devices, magic traps, just like a rogue. I'm the only rogue anyway, so everyone's cool with it. And +1 for disable device, and it is always a skill for us, or a class skill for us. So I have that one, and then I have pragmatic, or I have unshackled on this one, and it's just escape artist because in closed areas I'm a little bit worried about being trapped, and so I just figured I would take this and give me a little bit of improvement. Your will save will always suck. Either take a trait that gives you an extra +1 on it, or focus your magical items to give you an increase to it. That's it. Another thing that I have commonly used is Pragmatic Activator, specifically so that I can use Magic Device, because at level 15, you're easily going to be in the 20s, double digits, if you really want to play into it. By the time you hit double digits, you're not going to be able to mess up on a wand unless you roll a 1. So I have that in my other campaign, just in case. I don't think I'll need it, but it's okay. It's something that I'm still playing with for the for this character. So, but that is my roguelike Aether Kineticist. Like I said, especially for the first 3/4 of the game, you're not going to deal massive damage, but it is about being super stealthy and being able to get around. You are flying, you are turning invisible, you are doing it whenever you want, and you're doing it all day. And you're disabling traps from across the room. So you are the ultimate sneak and the ultimate disabler of devices. Great for any kind of dungeon that does that kind of stuff. So either way, whether you're going to be ranged or melee, give it a shot. I love Kineticists. I just wish they got more love. And this is one that I'm going to be happy to play around with, especially at level 4 when I get to ask my GM, how much does that weigh? All right. Have a good day.